The Pacific Northwest in general, but Portland specifically, is so unique because we're so close to everything. I could go to the coast. I could go up to Mount Hood. I could drive up to Seattle even. I mean, we're 3.5 hours away. And I think I've seen more of Oregon since I started this job.
You have more time to do that?
I have more time to do it, you know. I can say, hey, I'm just going to go to the coast today because I have that extra day.
You take 40 hours off, you're front end and back ended by 3 days. So 4 days becomes 10 days off, and you can do a lot in that time.
Hi, I'm Patrick Johnson, recruiter for the Portland Police Bureau. Today we're here with two recent new hires that just came off their probation, Officer Badri and Officer Hamilton. And today we're going to talk about everything from the process, the academies, and what it's like on patrol. So let's start off, first of all. What did you do before you were a police officer? And start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a student before this. Graduated from PCC, Portland Community College, Cascade campus, and then went on to be a PSU Viking. And then I was like, you know what? I still want to be a police officer. Let's do it.
Are you from Portland?
Yeah, well, okay. So some people would say technically I'm from Beaverton because I am, but I would say I'm from like the metro area. So.
Okay, pretty much. And you work at Central Precinct now. We'll go into that later, but Central Precinct, so pretty much
downtown,
where
the
you
core.
went to school. Okay, so pretty much where you went to school for.
Yeah.
Okay. Officer Hamilton?
I went to the University of Oregon and majored in journalism, specifically advertising. So I worked in that for a little bit, and then I was an operations coordinator at a public relations firm in the Pearl District.
Okay. And now you are right now in Central Precinct also. So you're working where you were working before, too.
Yeah, and I actually lived in downtown Portland for 2.5 years before I applied here. So I actually used to live about a mile from the precinct.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit to when you applied. Applying online.
Mm-hmm.
How was it? Was it pretty simple? Do you remember it? It wasn't that long ago.
For me, it was a while ago. But I mean, it was easy.
Okay, so you had COVID intermixed in there
I had COVID with mine, so take that into consideration. But I mean, as far as applying during that time, it was still really easy. I mean, you just went on the website, which looked great, and then they're like, hey, you should be a Portland police officer. And I was like, hey, I want to be a Portland police officer.
So the website got you.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you? Your process through that?
Yeah, I think I'd Googled Portland Police, and the first thing that came up was joinportlandppb, I think .com might have been the URL. So I clicked on it and did a bunch of research, and then the application was pretty smooth. I mean, it was step by step, and then I was communicating with someone throughout the whole process for the application process.
Yeah, and it was joinportlandpolice.com. That is our address there. Okay, without mentioning any other names of any other agencies, did you guys look at any other agencies or apply any other agencies around here or other states or anything?
Yeah, I mean, since I grew up here, I wanted to find some work in policing locally.
Okay, yourself?
I knew I wanted to work for Portland, but I did apply to one other agency.
So why, I guess you eventually work for here, why Portland? What stood out about Portland versus these other agencies or all the other agencies you could apply in Portland or Washington or anywhere else in the country?
I think the opportunities that you can get at this agency, it's a lot bigger. So the opportunities for growth, the specialty teams you can work on, I think the different precincts, just a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. Exposure to more and different things. I think, and this isn't to speak ill of the other agencies, but just smaller agencies, they just deal with different things. Whereas if you're in a city, you're dealing with a whole bunch of different things, larger, metropolitan group, different groups living within each other. It just exposes you to totally different things every single day instead of just being in a neighborhood, which is a lot of the surrounding agencies.
Okay. So you kind of talked about it a little bit, Officer Hamilton, when you applied about someone there being with you through the process. Let's talk about the process a little bit. Now, the process now is average 4 to 5 months. It could be a little quicker. It could be a little bit longer. And I know you have, again, COVID mixed into it, so it might have taken a little longer. So I'm looking more for Officer Hamilton for this one. How was the process from beginning to end, working with the backgrounder? How was it? Like easy, or did you have to? Could you do a lot online or a lot of local stuff?
Yeah, I applied in May of 2021 and I wasn't able to do a ride along due to COVID. And so I had a little bit of that COVID experience, whereas none of my application process was in person. So my command interview was over Zoom. My psychiatric evaluation was over Zoom. The only thing that was in person was really my medical evaluation and things like that. My overall process probably took, I think, 6 months, 6 or 7 months. And so relatively quick for that time period. And my background investigator was wonderful. I mean, I answered all my questions, especially because I hadn't had a ride along. So I had a lot of questions and she was there for it all, which was great. So
in the beginning of the process, a lot of communication is done through email. And then once you get a backgrounder, then it's communicating with the backgrounders through the whole process and walking through it.
Yeah. So I was through email at first and they made, they kind of helped me understand that it was going to be a little bit of a longer process. It wasn't your typical job application that you would do because it's a long background that they need to make sure that you're a good fit for this job. And so I think that's something to keep in mind is it is a long process and just keep the faith that the background investigator is working on it and they'll contact you when they need to. But you can always reach out because they kind of expect that. So.
Okay. So you get hired. Now you do a little preparation with the training division. And then you go to basic academy. Tell me a little bit about your prep and going to the basic academy and how you felt that you're prepared for that.
I mean, the prep was like very, very, very basic. But I mean, it was something to get you like some footing because a lot of the other agencies you're going to run into while you're in the basic academy like have had street time or time like, actually taking police calls and like doing police work. Whereas here you're not doing that. Like you're literally just like going from getting hired, doing like 2 weeks of like basic training and then getting shipped off. And I mean, it was good. I mean, it's better than like not having any kind of grasp of anything. So that was nice. But it was also nice going into basic like fresh so you can just get that experience.
Yeah, I think going down to basic, you're there with 39 other people. They're from different agencies across the state. So I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know anyone in law enforcement. I didn't have any friends or family in law enforcement. But it was a really good foundation. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, you're going down to learn basic policing. We're all learning the same thing, which I think is really important because we're then all going to go to our other agencies and you can have those connections at those other places. So I had a great experience at the Basic Academy.
Okay. So you graduate and you go on to your other agencies and you go back to your agency. What happens after that? What's your next step? Yes, I know you could go back and be with a coach for a couple weeks to a month or so. But what happens? Do you go to another academy up here?
Yeah, so Portland specifically has what's called the Advanced Academy. So it's a 3-month academy that only Portland puts on. And it kind of caters more towards the calls that we see here more frequently. And so it's basically set up the same way though. So you have scenarios, you have firearms and control tactics, and you're learning all these things. But the instructors are fantastic. And I think it's a good next step to really give you that training for what we see here in Portland.
The Advanced Academy and the Basic Academy, you guys have both been to college. It's not like a militaristic basic academy, right? It's more of a laid back college style. Yeah,
which is interesting because I think the Basic Academy and what I was told right before I went to it was that that's how it used to be. And they were just making that like transition. And then when I came here to the Advanced Academy in Portland, I mean, it was just like that. It was, what they call adult learning. It's like, it's like going to work, for 40 hours a week, but that work is all training to get you prepared to actually do the job, like when you get on the street.
And when I went through Advanced, it was the instructors that made it fun. So it was like fun learning through the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, they're all people who've been on the street who are officers. So I think that was a big thing was they had all this context to give and they did make it fun. I mean, it wasn't a stifling atmosphere, I guess is the word to say. It was fun and you knew you could go to them if you needed something or if you had questions. And yeah, it was a good learning experience.
Okay.
And they're all super passionate too. Like especially the control tactics instructors, I remember especially were like super passionate about all of that stuff. The firearms instructor equally, the patrol procedures, like they each like wanted to get into that. They weren't just like tossed into that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So after your Advanced Academy, you go out to the field training program where you go sit in a car with the coach, and eventually you drive and start learning everything and slowly progressing to where you're running the whole show yourself. Can you take me through that a little bit and how you felt you started to the end and how the training went, so you weren't just like given a bunch of stuff right away? You slowly progressed at your pace.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those few jobs where you can get a lot of training in something. I mean, you think about it, like the basic academy is like 4 months long, and then the advanced academy is another 3 months on top of that. But that kind of training, is like in a closed environment, or it's super safe, and nothing's going to happen. And then you're kind of thrusted into like reality where like there's people, and people are weird, and people do whatever they want, and they act however they want. So that's where it all comes to fruition, right? You can use all of the knowledge that you learned in the classroom as like a catalog, but you'll get forged in like the actual street and how to do things and how to interact with people. Because you can't talk like a robot to some people. Like some people just not going to be like, why are you talking to me like that? You got to like, talk to them at their level where they're at.
That was a great way to describe that. How do you feel? I mean, because you got to go to, like, he described about dealing with people and like that, but what do you think about like their different experiences? Because every precinct, we have 3 precincts, it has different cultures. It's all different around the city of Portland where it's located. What do you think about that? And also you learn from different coaches, different styles.
Yeah. I think that's good to mention because, again, when I started, I had zero knowledge of what this job was going to be and what it was going to look like. So you do go to 3 different precincts. So we have North, Central, and East Precinct. And you do rotate through all 3, or that is the goal during the field training program. And you get 6 phases total. So there's entry phase through phase 5. And you have coaches from entry to phase 4. And those are really the people that can shape who you are as an officer. I think you take the good and the bad from each person and you forge who you want to be at the end and what kind of officer you want to be. But I find myself doing things, good things that my coaches taught me. And I'm like, oh yeah, that person taught me that, or that person taught me that. And I know I still call them to this day. Hey, I have this call I've never dealt with. Can you help me with that? So it's building those relationships as you go through the field training program, because you are adult learning. And it can be hard sometimes, but you don't always have to be drinking through a fire hose. It can be as simple as just taking it day by day and learning as you go. And then I'm still learning. I was off probation as like a month ago, almost today.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I'm most recent than Officer Badri here. And I think I'm still learning, and I'll be learning for years to come, because I think this job changes every single day. So.
Yeah. It is a constant learning profession because people are always changing. The mood of people are changing. The way that the community wants policing done is always changing. So our job is fluid all the time.
Speaking of that, this next question, your answer is probably going to change every couple of years. What is your favorite thing about being a Portland police officer?
You go first.
Okay. I think for me, it's mostly my coworkers. I think working in that team atmosphere and you're tackling these calls together, because some of them are big. Some of them are, can kind of hit home for some people. And I think it's important to have those around you, because we're dealing with something not everyone deals with every day, and taking calls for service for people calling that need us. So to have those people who have your back, and, that you've gone through training with together, and you've gone through that training, and you've day in and day out, you're together. That means a lot to me. So it's the people I work with.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. But for me personally, I think it's just the not knowing what's going to come today. I knew I didn't want to do an office job. I wanted to be like out serving community. And so I was like, well, policing is going to be a perfect avenue for that. And then knowing every day that it's just not, you don't know what you're going to get into. Like, it could be a simple day where you're just helping, grandmas cross the street and kind of, well, not for me because I work night shift, but maybe some grandmas walk at night and they do probably need to be helped across the street. But I mean, you just don't know what you're going to experience on a daily basis. And that's honestly the most fun, because you go into work, you're doing this and that, and then all of a sudden this call comes out and you're like, what? They're doing what? And they're doing it where? And then you're like, oh, okay. A little feather in my cap right there. Something I would never thought I was going to ever experience in my life.
That's the biggest city in Oregon.
Yeah.
So we work 4 days a week, 3 days off, 10-hour days.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Best split ever.
So we'll talk about that part in a second here, what you do with those 3 days off. But those 10 hours. So 9 of those hours you're working patrol. 1 of those hours you get for wellness, mind and body wellness.
Mhm.
What do you guys think about that?
I love the hour we get. I think sometimes we're kind of go all day long in our shift. And sometimes I have to be like, oh yeah, I need to eat lunch. And that's me personally, right? And so that hour I can really set aside to work out, meditate, do what I need to do. And it helps me be the best person I can be in this job. Because if I don't have that outside of the 10 hours, like if I don't have that time, I know I can get that in that hour. And that's important to me.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes along, I think, with this job by nature, but it is a job where by the fact that you're doing things that you're not expecting to do every day, it can get kind of taxing. Because again, you can have a very like easy and chill day, but that's oftentimes not the case because people have traumatic events that they deal with, and you need to go and you need to help them process through some of that. So having an hour either at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, or in some cases in the middle of the day to just step away from that is very, very helpful. And honestly, like for mental health, like of officers, probably like paramount in like importance.
And it's good. You're getting paid for it. It's during your shift. So, because a lot of people in the past be like, I'm going to go home and work out, or I'll do it before, and then they don't because
Right.
home life comes in over that.
And I think it might be cliche to say, but filling your cup so you can fill other people's. It's like, I can't show up and help. I think they say this in terms of our response with our vehicles and our response as people is we can't help unless we show up. And that means mentally and physically. So I can't show up mentally unless I take care of myself.
And you think about it too, I mean, like in the history of policing in general, like poor health outcomes is a very common thing, especially towards the later half of our career. So front loading ourselves with even just a basic amount of like time for yourself is probably going to help us in the long run for the longevity of us, like staying in this career potentially 25, 30 years.
So now to the other part of that question, or the 3 days off.
Yeah.
What do you guys enjoy those 3 days? Do you get out and do stuff? I know you just came back from a month-long vacation, so apparently you're getting time off.
Yeah.
And then be able to enjoy it. What do you guys like to do outside of work?
I mean, yeah. I mean, so for me, like, as you kind of said, like, I'm a big travel guy. And, you know, before I was able to travel a decent amount because I was a student before this and I had some kind of part-time gig work. But, like, once I got this job and the hours of, like, I mean, you think about it, right? Like, you take 40 hours off, you take your normal day of week off. Most people get 7 days off. But here you get 10 because you're front-end and back-ended by 3 days. So 4 days becomes 10 days off, and you can do a lot in that time. I mean, that's like a easy, like, oh, let me go visit my friend in another city, or, oh, I'm just going to stay, home for the week and just have like 10 days to just like reset myself. So for me, it's like travel's my big thing. I like being around Portland.
Okay.
So in the summer or like when the weather's nicer, I'll be like hiking or going around city places. Now that it's getting kind of rainier and darker out, like this is the perfect time to like go explore like the cool little boutique restaurant that you heard about like on Instagram or whatever, or go to like one of the many thousands of breweries that constantly pop up in the city. So, I mean, there's just like, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of the city is like there's always something new. Even though like there have been things that have like gone on in the city that have kind of shifted back and then shifted it forward. Any place that you find like that you're going to enjoy, you're going to find something you're going to enjoy. And for here, it's like the little hole in the wall place you didn't know that existed.
Yeah, I think I love having the 3 days off. Before this, I was working a 9 to 5. I was working from home during the pandemic on a computer, which just didn't work for me. And I think I love the 410s because I get a day to do errands and a day to relax and a day to make appointments because I get 1 day off during the week. And for me, going to the doctor or the dentist, it's easier now. I don't have to take a full day off. But that also means I can spend more time with my friends and family. My dad lives in Bend, so I can just pop down for 3 days and pop back up. So that means a lot to me to be able to see my family and friends more often. And then working those 10-hour shifts, it doesn't really feel like that much more.
You mentioned Bend. You talked about hiking. What do you guys like to do around the state of Oregon? I guess what Anything?
I think the Pacific Northwest in general, but Portland specifically, is so unique because we're so close to everything. I could go to the coast. I could go up to Mount Hood. I could drive up to Seattle even. I mean, we're 3.5 hours away. And that's really special to think that you can just kind of pop around. And then the metro area really isn't that far from Portland. Most of the time it was just like a quick drive in, I think, and going to restaurants and parks, just hanging out with my friends. So it's nice to be able to go to those places around here.
Yeah, I mean, like there is a multitude of different like hiking locations just like within an hour distance of here. And then kind of to your point, like, yeah, it's only like 3 hours to Seattle. And then if you want to do an extended trip, you'd go an extra 2 hours and you're in Vancouver, British Columbia, like an even like more mountainous, like hiking, diverse like city that you can go and visit. And it's only a 5-hour drive away. And like I said, if you take your 4 days off, you got 10 days off. Like you go up there, you're up there for 7 days, you come back down, you still got days to like kind of recoup, come back, and then get back to work. And it's, I mean, that's just something that's just so nice about the Northwest is that there's like 3 big major cities all like not that far from each other and easily like accessible.
And I think I've seen more of Oregon since I started this job.
You have more time to do that?
I have more time to do it. You know, I can say, hey, I'm just going to go to the coast today because I have that extra day. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to just go to the beach. I personally love the beach. I grew up on the beach. So for me to just go there for a day is super relaxing. I'm not a big hiker, but I can appreciate the ones that we do have. But I do love like anything with the water. So kayaking in the summer, anything like that. But I've definitely seen more of Oregon than I ever have.
That's one of the things I always, you know, because I travel so much, that's one of the things I always like look back on with Oregon is that there are a lot of flat places on this planet where you just go and you can just see the horizon forever. And like, there's some people that are into that. But if you want some like topography and like mountains and greenery and like rivers, like the Northwest is where you need to be. Because like you're like, if you're ever sitting in the middle of Portland, you can see like Mount St. Helens, you know, Mount Hood, Mount Adams on a good day, like in the distance, beautiful. And then like the topography of like the West Hills and the forests there. Like there's just greenery and lushness here instead of just flat and kind of bleak, which definitely also like helps with like probably your morale because, you know, because it's going to be gray here most of the time for people and that's going to not make them as happy. But having green instead of brown everywhere is like very nice.
And your wellness time.
Yeah.
If someone is considering applying for Portland Police Bureau, what advice would you give them?
I would say be yourself and be honest. They're hiring you to be you and not to be like somebody else. So, you know, I'm not like the person sitting next to me. I'm not like you. And I think that's what makes doing this job so special is because we're serving the community and you're a part of that community. So just being yourself because they can't teach you to necessarily talk to every single person, but they can teach you to be an officer and they can give you that training. But it's who you are as a person that's going to shape who you are as an officer. I
don't know why, but I find that such a difficult question because I think it just takes a certain kind of person to do this job because I think one thing I would say for someone that wants to do this job or wants to come here and do this job is know what you're going to get into. Because this is a very special job. Like you're doing something that not a lot of people get to do. And if you don't know the culture of this city, like don't know how people are or kind of the history of things, it can very much like feel like when you get here that it's not exactly what you wanted it to be. Someone grew up here. I mean, I kind of knew what I was getting into, like jumping into this job. And that's why I love coming here every day to work because I'm like, oh, it's the same people I've like grown up with and it's the experiences and like that. But people that come from different areas or different parts of the world, like they may not have that experience. So knowing the culture, knowing like how people are here, knowing like the West Coast vibe, as they would say, is like I would say key to like being well in this job.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Pacific Northwest is a very special place and the people who grew up here. Yeah, it's very, I've lived other places and then I always seem to come back here just because I enjoy it so much, but it is a very different culture. So if you're coming from a different state or something, yeah, just know what the weather's going to be like. and what it is like here, because it does rain a lot. So
Yeah, it does rain, but
Yeah.
that's what makes it green.
Yeah.
That's what makes it
I
beautiful.
love the rain.
But you also get a lot of time off to go to other places
Yep.
where it's nice.
That's the
very
thing
true.
is, I love to come back here, and I like to visit other places, and that's
Home base.
There you go. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you for joining me today and discussing everything. We are hiring every month. Go to joinportlandpolice.com to learn more information, contact a recruiter, or sign up for one of our workshops. Thanks.
No, thank you.
Yeah. happy to do it.
Thanks again for listening to this special edition of the Portland Police Bureau's Talking Beat. A reminder, the Portland Police Bureau is currently hiring new and lateral officer positions. To learn more, contact a recruiter, or if you're ready to apply, please visit www.joinportlandpolice.com.